Good day, everyone. Thank you so much, Ma'am Mary Lizelle de la Cruz, Sister Josie, and the rest of the AIR community and the faculty and staff of Consulatrix College of Toledo City for having me today as one of your guest speakers in your AIR-SC local congress. It's been a while since I've been in Cctc. I think the last time was when I recently graduated in college, and I'm really quite happy that I get to be with you virtually. So before I will start, I would like to introduce myself first. My name is Ms. Saiblan A. Ramirez. I am from San Carlos City, Negros Occidental. I'm currently affiliated with Colegio de Santa Rita de San Carlos Incorporated, working as a program head of the BS Tourism Management Department. So I have been an ARCN for more than 8 years because right after college and I pursued my career in the academe. I've worked as a teacher servant leader for 2 years. And not only that, no, I think even after I have left AIR-SC to pursue a more higher um, responsibility or calling, I still can consider myself as an AIR-SC. The fire of AIR-SC will never leave us. No, it would still keep burning within us. Um, so Consulatrix College has been is my alma mater. I've been in Consulatrix College for 8 years. I've spent most of my high school and college education in CCTC. So that's why I owe a great deal of thanks to the AR sisters and my teachers, my mentors in CCTC, because they have contributed so much in my development. And I think it's only fitting that I give back and also share my time to all of you, as a way of paying it forward. So before I will start, I would like to share my screen first. I tend to be very talkative, and sometimes I speak so fast. So I'll try my best to refrain myself from making side stories or telling side stories, and also to talk very fast. I tend to be like that. I'm a very talkative person. I tend to talk really, really fast. So so that you can also comprehend, I will be sharing to you. I'll try as much as possible to speak slowly. Let me just move my... Okay. Now, my topic for today will be all about the 500 years of Christianity gifted to give. So when I was given this topic by Ma'am Lizelle last week, when she contacted me last week, I had a lot of ideas in mind. So I was hoping to compress my talk in at least 30 to 40 minutes, not basically an hour, so that, just to keep it short, but hopefully I'll be able to share a comprehensive explanation about our history of the Catholic Church, and as well as, how the theme gifted to give reflects our values as Heresians. Because it's no coincidence that the theme is gifted to give. No, it's a reminder that as Christians, no, it is our calling, it is our mission to not only receive the gift of faith, gift of God, but also to share it with other people. So that's servant leadership. That's one of the core values of AIR-SC, and also to spread, to evangelize, no, to share the gift of faith to other people, which is also one of the things that AIR-SC has taught me. It's our mission to evangelize, to spread the good news, to share the faith to other people. So I had this idea that I will be dividing my talk into 3 parts. The first part would be just a compressed history of the Catholic Church, because as Christians, no, although we have already celebrated the 500 years of Christianity last year, that was the mark of our 500 years. No, it's still important that we understand our roots, where our Catholic faith came from, So I'm not a historian. Some of the um, contents of the first part of my talk will be coming from Jesuit and Dominican historians. Some are also from the official website of the 500 years of Christianity. So if you'd like to read like a very comprehensive or detailed um, article about the history of the Catholic Church, you can visit that website, or later I'll provide a link in my references at the end of my slide. I decided to talk about that so that you can be able to understand where we came from, and also the trials and tribulations that the missionaries, native clergy, and the faithful or religious people in the Philippines have experienced in order for our faith to persevere, in order for our faith to continue. So, you know, history of our church really matters. So I'll do the best that I can so that I may be able to, explain each part carefully and thoroughly. And then the second part is relating to the theme gifted to give. So I think I already made that. No, I already mentioned that earlier. So the second and third part would be about heresy and servant leaders, a reflection from the theme gifted to give, and also gifted to give, gift of faith, which is, of course, still a reflection from the theme gifted to give. No? And the gift of faith that I'm talking about is how we can evangelize, how we can spread the good news, and also to share what we have known about our God, about our faith to other people who has not yet experienced Christ. Okay, so I'll try as much as possible to compress that. So the Philippines is called the Arsenal of Faith. Let me just go back to the previous slide. Arsenal of Faith, deposit of Christianity in the East, because we are one of the most successful missionary efforts. We were named as our story, our faith, how the church was built and has persevered for so many years in the Philippines. It was considered as one of the most successful missionary efforts in Asia. So that was according to the writings of Bokenkotter in 2005. A Jesuit historian, Father John Schumacher, even wrote in his article that whether one is a believing Catholic or not, the development of the Filipino nation cannot be understood without a knowledge of a major, more often decisive role that the church has played, well or ill, in that process and continues to play. So like the proverbial grain of mustard seed that is sown in the fertile earth, the growth and development of the church and the Philippines were the fruits of the labors of our missionary friars. And it was sustained by the native clergy, by the indigenous clergy, and it was then made more vibrant by the faithful people, and that is us. So it was a collective effort, a collective will of the missionaries, indigenous clergy, and faithful people that made our faith sustained until today. Now, for us to fully understand all of those efforts, all of those tribulations and trials that they have experienced for the past 500 years, our faith has experienced that for past 500 years. Let us go back in time and try to understand where it all started from and how the Catholic Church emerged and developed until today. So we will start first with how Spain conquered the Philippines with the cross of Christ. So Catholicism came to the Philippines with the European discovery of the archipelago. If you can still remember your history, it was the explorer Ferdinand Magellan who set foot in the islands in the year 1521. So he planted the cross in the island of Cebu, which now became the cradle of Christianity in the Philippines. So there, he spearheaded the conversion of Raha Humabon, and also his consort Hara Amihan. So they took the baptismal names Carlos and Juana, which was after the names of the Spanish king and queen mother. So this only happened just a few weeks within the offering of the first mass in the islands by Father Pedro de Valderrama. So he was at the time the chaplain of the voyage. So on March 31, 1521, Magellan then named the island archipelago of Saint Lazarus because coincidentally, on that day, on the day that he first sighted the Philippines back in March 16, 1521, it was a Saturday. And it was the eve of Passion Sunday, with which in the old Roman liturgy, um, the gospel of the resurrection of Saint Lazarus. So it was fitting that he would call the islands archipelago of Saint Lazarus. So the name that stuck, however, up until today was actually Las Islas Filipinas, or the Philippine Islands. So it was given by Roy Lopez de Villalobos, who headed the follow-up expedition right after the death of Magellan in the hands of the natives in the Battle of Mactan. So it was not archipelago of Saint Lazarus that stuck until now, but it was Las Islas Filipinas. So the evangelization of the Philippines began with the arrival of the conquistador Miguel Lopez de Legazpi. So he arrived in Cebu on April 27, 1565. So the natives fled out of fear and they burned their homes. And in one of those homes, they recovered an image of the Santo Niño, or the child Jesus. So it was actually Magellan's baptismal gift to Reina Juana. No? And today, this Santo Niño, the image of Santo Niño, now became the object of the largest Christian devotion in our country. So Legazpi then called the first Spanish settlement the city of the most holy name of Jesus. And the feast is now attached to the devotion of the Holy Child. Now let's proceed to the church that was established by the missionary zeal. So the conquest of the Philippines was fundamentally due not because of the sword of the conquistador, but it was because of the cross of the missionary. So the church, or the Filipinos, were then encouraged into the fold of the church because of the missionaries. No? And it was the missionaries' zeal and charity and their efforts to bring Filipinos closer to God, and also hopefully to baptize them into Christians. So in the time of their arrival, the missionaries had benefited from the experience of the conquest and the evangelization of the Americas. So the Synod of Manila then reminded the encomenderos. So the encomenderos were people that were entrusted with a piece of land. And not only that, they were granted like a piece of land, but there were also people living in that land. So those people that are living in that land who are natives, they had to pay tribute to the encomendero. So more of like a forced labor. No? So, or an encomendia system, forced labor system. So an encomendero was assigned into each piece of land where there were also settlers there, and those settlers would pay tribute to the encomendero. They would also serve the encomendero in exchange for his protection. Okay. So it has been a practice already among American colonies, no, and was later on also adapted in our country when we were colonized by the Spaniards. So the encomenderos were reminded by the Synod of Manila that they have the right to collect tribute from the people living in the piece of land that was entrusted to them, but it carried like a dual responsibility. Not only that they have the responsibility to collect tribute from the settlers there, but also they had to establish justice and as well as to evangelize. So that's why in every encomendia, there has to be a missionary or a friar. So that established the church or the Catholic faith, amongst Filipinos, because in every encomendero there has to be encomendra, there has to be a missionary. So later on, the Spaniards carry out a system of reduction. So they have realized that the Philippines was not like America. They had scattered villages, barangays, where extended families live with datus or chieftains. No, you're under a chieftain. So in order to facilitate catechism, Filipinos had to be bajo le campana, or in other words, under the sound of a bell. That's why they had to establish town plazas. And up until today, the town plaza still survives. No, you see a town hall, a market, a school, and a church. So that was their way of establishing um, a community wherein it was easier to facilitate catechism. So the Dominicans then introduced this one, the Doctrina Christiana. So this was the first book that was published in the islands, no, back in 1593. So the Doctrina Christiana had contents of basic doctrine, which includes the Our Father, Hail Mary, the Credo, the Articles of Faith, which were usually recited before the Sunday Mass. And then they also established this norm wherein confession and Holy Communion were only done once a year during Easter season. So, it was the missionaries who further cemented the Catholic faith in the Philippines. Now, it was not until the close of the 17th century where the spiritual life flourished among Filipinos. So it had blossomed in full as Filipinos yearned for a deeper religious life. So according to the Jesuit historian Schumacher, he considered this as the golden age in the life of the Philippine church, because at that time, it was the emergence of the Beaterios and also the Filipino clergy. So one of those were Monasterio de Santa Clara, which had been in existence in the walled city since 1621. But at first, they did not admit native women. They were more into Spanish-born women at that time. So under the spiritual care of the Dominicans, the five beatas lived under a private home. So they prayed the rosary and they had to do like mental prayers and also some spiritual exercises. So upon reaching 15 beatas, so their community grew from 5 to 15. No, that's corresponding to 15 mysteries. The Beaterio de Santa Catalina was then founded on July 26, 1696, with Mother Francisca del Espiritu Santo as the prioress. So construction at the convent later drew the ire of the Governor General, and soon the Beatas clashed with the Archbishop. So they had a little bit of a power struggle because, the Archbishop wanted to assert his authority. So the Beatas were forced into Santa Pontesiana in exile. So after negotiations and of course with the fervent prayer of the Beatas, the Archbishop had a change of heart and they allowed the Beatas to return. So their community grew at that time when they had their exile from 15. Mother Francisca brought back 16 Beatas and they now agreed to observe the rules of enclosure. Now, the next harvest at this time were also literally from the churchyard of the Garden of the Augustinian Recollects. So our very own foundresses, Mother Junicia and Mother Cecilia Rosa Talangpas, these Bulaqueña sisters, they sought a life dedicated to God, to Eucharist, to the Lady of Mount Carmel. So the Recollects of San Sebastian, if you can still remember the life of our foundresses, was it Beyond the Stars? Remember back in high school, we had a play or I don't know what they call it now. It's a very long time now we're in. We had to recite, I think, a poem or a song about the life of our foundresses. So they had to really undergo a lot of struggles at that time as well. And, their struggles have bear fruit because up until now, the Augustinian Recollect congregation continued to thrive and continued to deliver the mission of our foundresses and also continue to deliver quality Catholic education. So the Recollects of San Sebastian Church obliged and gave them the habit of the mantelatas of the Augustinian Third Order on July 16, 1725. So the sisters, and they also were able to um, encourage two other beatas. They lived together in prayer in a nipa house in the Recollect Garden. So it was literally a harvest in an actual garden. So um, there were more problems that arose because there were a lot of young women that were encouraged to join um, the admission to the new beaterio. So maybe because they saw that a life of prayer was, a life of peace, and also it was a very it was a time wherein the Filipino faith flourished even more. So there were a lot of women that were really encouraged to join the Beaterio, and the Recollect prior had to shut it down, no? And of course, just like the previous Beaterio, there were a lot of appeals with regards to the reopening of the Beaterio, and it softened the heart of the prior. So the Beatas got their habits back, and they had to go back na to the Nipa house because um, they were granted access again to open the Beaterio. So the Beaterio San Sebastian finally gained royal recognition in 1756, but not before encountering a lot of opposition from the government and religious authorities. But still, it continues to thrive up until now. Well, the next one is the emergence of the Filipino clergy. So as Beaterios emerged back in the closing of the 17th century, um, what followed is the Filipino clergy, where they sought independence and also secularization. So according to Dominican historian Father Lucio Gutierrez, uh, in his accounts, there were first two native Filipinos that was ordained into priesthood. So these were Agustin Taboyo of Cagayan in 1621, which was followed by Miguel Jeronimo of Pampanga in 1653. However, the Jesuit historian Schumacher contends he felt it was doubtful that these two were native or were indigenous, were natives of the Philippines. So in his accounts, his first definitely Indio priest was not these two, but instead it was Francisco Baluyot. So he was ordained in December 1698. So at that time, although no, there was a lot of um, Filipinos that were interested in joining the clergy and also joining beaterios, but ordinations were few at this time and were far between, as Jesuit and Dominican colleges only produce few candidates. And most of them are Philippine-born Spaniards. So they did not actually open their doors to natives at that time. So moreover, there was a policy in Spanish America of not ordaining natives, which were then implemented or carried over to the East Indies. So at the time, the Archbishop of Manila, Basilio Sancho y Santas Justa y Rufina, was confident to insist on the visitation and secularization of the parishes. Because at the time, they've noticed that the parishes became too dependent on the missionary orders, and that stunted, that restrained, no, that stunted the development of the native priests. So there was a call for secularization. So in the Philippine context, when we talk about secularization, it means merely nationalizing, no? Because the Catholic Church um, believes it's right that they need to replace the friars with native secular priests. It was a reaction to the friars, Spanish friars, that were perceived as obstacles to education, to development, to progress, to freedom. So they wanted independence, no, and this call for secularization then not just only became like an issue within one church, but it became like a nationalist cause, no, because they wanted independence. No? So in 1773, they built the seminary of San Carlos on the site of the University of San Ignacio, which had been abandoned due to the expulsion of the Jesuits in 1768. However, the wave of the secularization failed. No, it bred enmity. You know, for one, there was like a takeover from Augustinians in Pampanga, which was led by the Governor General Simon de Anda himself, and he became very violent. No? So secular priests also proved to be very ill prepared and poorly trained to take over the parishes because again, no, some of these parishes they became too dependent on the missionary and they did not train or develop priests or native priests in order to take over these parishes in case that they would like to seek independence. So they realize, you know, these priests, these native priests are poorly trained. So there was a petition to the king that they have to put an end to secularization. No? Um, at first, it was a racial overtone because they were Indios, they were not allowed the same freedom or the same responsibility as Spanish-born or Filipino-born Spaniards in the clergy. But later on, they realized it was more of a nationalist cause. But then, no, with the perseverance of other members in the clergy, Filipino clergy, many in that clergy proved that they're worthy of the secularization, and they began to fight their rights to have the parishes back. And that cause was led by Father Pedro Pelaez. He was a very outstanding priest, and he was also an academic. He raised funds to send a representative to Madrid, where they wrote pamphlets in favor of the secularization and eventually petitioned the Queen to reconsider and also for support of the continuity of the secularization. So he was then succeeded by his protege, Father Jose Burgos. So Father Jose Burgos was the most brilliant student to ever come out of the portals of the University of Santo Tomas. And another secular was also with him, Father Mariano Gomez. He did not possess the same credentials as Burgos, but he was a very excellent organizer and they were also very hardworking. So even though there were a lot of, struggles in maintaining the secularization at the time, because some of the Filipino members of the Filipino clergy were not yet trained, they were very inexperienced, but with the perseverance of the likes of Father Pelaez, Father Burgos, and as well as Father Gomez, secularization was pushed through. So today, the Philippines has now a total of at least 86 archdioceses with the efforts of the clergy and the religious people. Up until today, our faith has remained strong. The Catholic Church has remained strong. And now the Philippines has a total of 86 archdioceses, dioceses, prelatures, apostolic vicariates, and over 80 million faithful. So the Philippine Church last 2021 celebrated the 500 year of the arrival of Christianity in the Philippines, grateful for the trials, tribulations, as well as the triumphs as well. Not only trials and tribulations were celebrated, but as well as their triumphs over these struggles. So they stood against the test of time as an ever faithful people of God. So that was just a very short explanation of the history of the Catholic Church here in the Philippines and how was able to overcome a lot of trials, tribulations, and experienced a lot of triumphs for the past 500 years. So let's now move on to the second part of my talk. I think it's more than 30 minutes already now, but this will be very short lang. It's about how Heresians are also gifted to give. Let me just move my, okay. Now, the theme for this year's 500, oh no, last year's 500 years of Christianity is gifted to give. So it is taken from the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 10, verse 8. What you receive as a gift, give as a gift. So gifted to give is a proclamation of God's goodness and generosity, that all that we are and all that we have do not come from our own selves. And it's also a humble acknowledgement that what we receive from God is also a calling, or we are called to also share what we have received from God, whether it may be a gift of faith, a gift of people, no, gift of service or talent. So all of those things are actually from God. It's not just from us. And you know, the theme calls on us to share, to share our presence, our service onto other people. So being gifted does not only mean that you are rich in material things, but it means that you're gifted with the faith. You're gifted with a lot of blessings, like the people around you, and you know it's one way of also being able to form a community through service, and of course to being there, offering your presence. And that kind of calling in our theme, gifted to give, is the very essence of servant leadership. Okay, so being out there, rendering your service, um showing, sharing your presence, okay, showing that you will always be available, regardless of, like difficult or tough times. Now, that's the true essence of servant leadership. So let's try to understand the true essence or the true meaning of servant leadership, and how um, it answers to the call of the theme of the 500 years of Christianity, gifted to give. So when we talk about servant leadership, I keep on moving my screen now. How awkward it is. Okay. So as a servant leader, you're a servant first. You focus on the needs of others, especially the team members, before you consider your own. And this also reflects the teachings of St. Augustine. It's no coincidence that we deeply resonate, we deeply connect with the theme, gifted to give, as servant leaders, because it also reflects the teachings of St. Augustine, which is humility, humility, humility. As a servant leader, our very root of being servant leader is always to be humble, humble ourselves. No, as servant leaders, we're not at the very top, and then um, giving out directions or bossing people around. A servant leader is in the midst of its members, is in the midst of people, participating, being in the entire process, is always there. No, you're not just there on the very top telling people what to do. That's a boss, no, but a true servant leader is out there inspiring people, sharing their presence, sharing their time, being of service to other people. No, that's an answer to the call of gifted to give. Now in Arsc, it's not a new thing anymore. Again, no, I have been through a lot of Arsc Congress, local, provincial, national Congress, and I've seen a lot of display of servant leadership. And it really warms the heart. No, every time that I attend different Arsc Congresses, I've always been amazed, inspired by the people I've met, the Arscians I've met, I've befriended some of them, and also the Air Sisters, the speakers, the teachers who are with us in the Air SE Congress. They've inspired us to be really true servant leaders. Imagine in every Air SE Congress, diba, I know some of you have already experienced this. We've slept for siguro mga 10 p.m. Then we wake up very early in the morning, like 4 a.m. And then, we do our humble task, and then we go about our day. And, even if we don't know some of the students that we encounter in the ARSC Congress, we are always so generous with our time and also trying to help each other out. We have this spirit of barkadahan with us, and it's really heartwarming. And that kind of friendship, that kind of community that I have experienced in ARSC, I have learned to bring that with me even as I've moved towards a new organization or into my work, into my students. No? So actually, I have been part of ARSC for more than 8 years, not just in my high school and college um, education, but also after I graduated in college. I think I already made mention of this one. I became like a teacher servant leader for only 2 years, and then I decided to focus my time not to another sector, or which is tourism. So even if I've moved to a different like organization, or I've been with different students na, and I've only had like a glimpse na lang of AirSC, but I'm I was still, um what they call this, but I have the spirit of AirSC with me. That's what I'm trying to say there. I have the spirit of AirSC with me. No, the teachers of AirSC still lives with me. um I remember, when I was elected as provincial president, I was really hesitant. I didn't have the experience. I was really doubtful. I had a lot of limitations, and because I was not really comfortable with the responsibility, because I always see myself as, no, I just wanted to be a spectator. Like, I was really afraid of the responsibility or living up to expectations to because I understood that at that time, when you are elected as an officer, it means that you will shoulder a lot of things, like a lot of like a big responsibility. And I considered myself like, I'm not ready for that. I'm very inexperienced. But you know, Air SC did so many wonders for me. It changed my life. Back then, I was really doubtful. I was really scared. I was really shy. I did not know how to reach out to people, but Air SC changed my perspective, really brought out the best in me. Sometimes there will be times that I'm not perfect. I'm not a perfect leader at the time. Looking back, I said like, I wish I could do all the things that I can do now. I wish I could do that back then when I was president. Right? I'm so active in some of the organizations I'm with. I was really hesitant when I was an ARSC president at first, because I keep on limiting myself. I really wish I could do all those things back then. But you know, regardless of that, I've learned a lot. ARSC changed my perspective. It showed me that in ARSC you have to be ready all the time. Like, if you feel you're not ready, you have to be ready. Um, and I'm thankful because even though that I'm very inexperienced at the time, I was scared of the responsibility, but the community that was built around me, the Arisians, the AR sisters, the teachers, my classmates, um, they really encouraged me and helped me a lot into becoming, um, hopefully, an effective leader. Hopefully, I was an effective leader at the time. Hopefully, someone that can be of service to ARSC, because I've grown so much with ARSC for the past several years. Back when I was a very hesitant and very shy leader, down to, you know, into right now to a person who is very outspoken and willing to, like, drop of a hat, I can even extend my time until 12 midnight. Like, sometimes ARSC changes you. So at the time, I was really scared. What if, I have to spend more hours doing a lot of things? What if I can't do that? And with my experience na, like, Sister Milod would often tell me, okay, you have to prepare this, do that, do this, do that. And I have no choice. No, I really have to do it. And that really disciplined me into a very strong person. Um, walang, ano, wala yung maginaya sa Air SC. That's what she always would tell me. Di ka maginaya, basta Air SC president ka, pas ka po, always available ka. Even Sister Luz, no, cemented that into me. I remember I was in fourth year college at that time, and she came in and she said, as an RC, as a president, you have to be ready all the time. So I was there, and I brought that with me even now until I became a teacher, an educator, and I also manage, my own set of officers na in a separate organization. I have to be ready, and even if you feel that you're not ready, your SC prepares you for that. Looking back, because this was back in 2015 and then this was in 2017. This was when the first time we were elected as national officers during the silver anniversary of Air SC, and this was during I was actually a teacher this time. We had to turn over our responsibility to the new set of officers in Palawan during the 12th Air SC National Congress. So looking back, I'm really grateful. Servant leadership was still there, and I've learned a lot. Discipline, taking initiative, learned that from Air SC. Always, be gracious of your time, or you have to be, available all the time for people because people will need you. And then also being able to be flexible, in whatever situations will be thrown at you, you have to be very flexible. And obedience and humility. Heresy taught me this, and I was able to bring that with me even as I graduate. So right now I'm connected with Junior Tourism and Hospitality Management Association of the Philippines. So their goals is quite similar to Air SC. They would like to bring out the best in every student, particularly tourism and hospitality management students. So they train every students in our organization to become student leaders, and as well as to be advocates for student development. So in JTMAP, we constantly have webinars every month, and we have also like a caravan series where in every region, every weekend, we have like skills and development trainings organized by the students. So when I was appointed as the regional advisor in Western Visayas under JTMAP, of course, I brought all of the things that I've learned from Air SC to JTMAP, because the kind of culture that JTMAP is developing is, well, again, still similar to Air SC, but it's not as strong if I compare it to Air SC, wherein, we've integrated evangelization in Air SC, we've integrated the teachings of St. Augustine, the value of barkadahan, servant leadership. Okay. So the culture is of course different, right? Well, they have similarities in some parts, but they're basically, they have different cultures altogether. And the kind of experience that I have, witnessed in Air SC, I've brought that to JTMAP. And some of the officers that are under me, which are coming from Iloilo, from Guimaras, from Negros Island, some of them are still new to, leadership, student leadership. They're still new to the what they call this, the responsibilities of being a leader. So at that time, when I was organizing the first ever caravan with the newly elected officers, so we initially went into planning, organizing, we disseminated all the tasks, and then I told them, okay, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to do this, and then you're going to do some of these things. So we're going to disseminate them. And then if you feel you're uncomfortable with this task because you lack the the skills into doing this task. Like for example, I'm going to assign you into making the publication materials. If you feel that you lack the skills into making publication materials, you let me know so that I may be able to assign it to another person or partner you with another officer so that you can work on the project together. And then every time that you have concerns, don't forget to always inform me, even if it's 12 midnight, 2 a.m., I'll always be available. And then, well, I'll be constantly checking up on you from time to time. This is what we're going to do. We're going to set up a timetable, everything. So they were actually quite surprised because, Mom, it's the first time because we've organized webinars before in our respective schools. And it's the first time that I have worked with a chairperson or regional advisor, because the regional advisor can stand as the chairperson of the project or of the webinar or caravan, that is so hands-on, is willing to render her time even at the wee hours in the morning, and also is always there, and is willing to help everyone, because we're used to that kind of management wherein they just provide us with tasks and then that's it, just follow up, and then no more like kamusta kamusta. And then sometimes you get reprimanded if you don't know these things. Sometimes, our teacher would tell us, Mom, nga, you should know these things, you're a college student. Then I tell them, that's not the kind of culture I grew up with in ARSC. So ARSC is just like JTMAP. Like I often explain it to them. But, it's more than that. No, it's a community. Sometimes we call ourselves a family, ARSC family, because not only that we are trained to become student leaders, but we are trained also to have the spirit of barkadahan, and also to render our service and our time when it is needed. So the kind of culture I experience in ARSC, I've brought it to JTMAP. And that's what I'm also, sharing it to you guys. No, because I understand you're still new to this. You need assistance, you need my help. And I don't want to make you feel that you're alone on the project. I want to make you feel that I am with you in the entire process. So that's what I tell them, and then they would say, you know what, we really appreciate you, Ma'am Sai, because you're really hands-on, and you know, because we're not paid for this. We're not paid to organize webinars in JTMAP. We render our service wholeheartedly to JTMAP. Imagine, um, I manage a program. I have other subjects, not just in the college department, but also in the senior high. At the time, I was also finishing my master's thesis and also reviewing for LET. And I had my hands full. My family members will often tell me, you have to stop volunteering for other things because you're I have your hands full already with a lot of responsibilities in school and at your studies. And I tell them, you know, I see JTMAP as a platform where I can help students in our industry to thrive, to grow, to develop. And if I have the skills, I'm willing to share that. No, and the students need me because our task as regional advisors, we have to be there for the students. Like we have to guide them, to mold them into student leaders. And if I am not with them all the time, how can they develop? How can they learn? So I often tell them, this is your first time. This is our first time working together. I'm with you in this project. And in the next project, I will be doing less of the micromanagement part because I tend to be like a micromanager in the first few parts of the project because of course we're still adjusting to the new responsibility. We still don't know the process yet of organizing a webinar, submitting a project proposal, because every organization has different formats. So at that time, I told them, okay, I will be with you throughout the entire process, and then the next project I'll also still be with you, but I'll do less supervision so that you can grow. But always remember, I'll always be with the project. I'll always work with you, and I will never leave you behind. Because other advisors do that. No, they just meet with the officers, and then they just um entrust everything to the ambassador. So the ambassador is also a student. So they entrust all their responsibilities to the ambassador and then just leave them. Okay, then the advisor will just like check on them from time to time. No, that's not what I did in in JTMAP. Like I really made it sure that all of us, if we had this culture in our region, that all of us has different tasks and all of us will work together. Like no one should be left behind. No one should be, you know, be doing nothing and just bossing people around. That should be, everyone should commit and should contribute to the project equally. And then if there are other officers that are struggling, we find ways to help them. And that's nurturing, the bonds of the community. So, you know, and all of that, that kind of culture that I wanted to set in JMAP Western Visayas is the kind of culture I've experienced in Arsc, that I felt I was really scared. I was unprepared. I was very inexperienced, but I was able to overcome all of those things because the community that was built around me, Air Sisters, the teachers, like Mom Lizelle, Sir Linneo helped me all throughout my college life, high school life. They guided me every step of the way. And the AR sisters as well, my classmates, and even this ARCians, even if after we have turned over our responsibility to the next officer, we still contacted each other, still show support, moral support. So that's a kind of family and connection that I have built with AirSC. No, and I wanted to build that one with the other organizations that I am with. So I'm very grateful to SC because of this. So I've learned the value of servant leadership, rendering my service to others, not really minding if I'm going to, because sometimes when we have meetings in JMAP, we started at 9 because some of the students, they are from big universities. Others are coming from Southwestern, South, Southwest, no, not Southwest. Western Visayas State University, sorry. Western Visayas State University, Central Philippine University, others are coming from the Nescos, De La Salle, in Bacolod. No, so they have other projects as well, and the only free time that we have is from 9 to 12 midnight. And just imagine, we are doing this for free because we just wanted other students that are part of the tourism and hospitality program to have skills and development programs, or things like that. No, we render that service one for free, and then sometimes the students would say, let's not disturb Mom Saibal because she has a lot of things to do. And then I say, oh, it's okay if you have, you have issues or you have concerns with your task, you tell me, because I'm fully committed to JMAP, because I share the same goals of JMAP, and it makes me happy to be of service to other people. Okay. And I even tell Sir Jojo, the founder of JMAP, nga, sir, there was a time that I wanted to resign because he was actually worried that I would resign, because my contract will be until 2023. He was worried that I will resign because they're not paying us. What we get is only the privilege, and also having access to different activities as well. He was worried that I will resign because of I was sharing to him about my workload. I told him, hanggat sa makaya nako, sir. So I told him, hanggat sa makaya nako, sir, okay ra jud siya, because I see my students, the tourism management students in CSR, and I want them to also grow with JMAP because you offer a lot of programs that can help students like them. So I would also like to pay that back, that kind of service that you provide and opportunities you provide for our students. I also want to render my service to JMAP as well, so that I may able to also help other students in our organization. So we're actually open not just to members of JMAP, but also to all of the colleges and institutions that offers hospitality and tourism management program. Hopefully Cctc will become, I don't know if they are part of JMAP Central Visayas. So one timer man a membership fee. Okay. Talkative kay ko, no? So I'm a very talkative person. The side story already na. So let's now proceed to what it takes to be a servant leader. Okay. So overpound ko ano, sa pawan na ang ARSC. So sorry. So, I was really quite overwhelmed with the experience that I had with AirSC, that, I was really happy that I was able to, share it to other organizations. Like I spread the presence of Arsc also to other organizations, like hopefully influence their culture as well. So um, let's now proceed to what it takes to be a servant leader. So I've listed 10 things, but actually this is not from me. This is from the former president of Robert K. Greenleaf Center for Servant Leadership, which is Larry C. Spears. No? So he listed 10 important characters or important characteristics of being a servant leader. So the first one is listening. So as servant leaders, it's really important that we need to, build or commit ourselves into listening intently to the people that we are talking to, and also understand what they are saying, because the more that we listen intently, the more we can understand as well what are their concerns, or if if they are struggling with something. So how can we able to address or help them in their situation? So we really need to listen. Okay, so for example, not just listening to the problems of the people around you or members of your group, but as well as listening if they have like constructive criticisms. Constructive criticisms are okay. It means that that person is worried and is looking out for you, and he wants you to improve. So you don't have to be scared about constructive criticisms. Sometimes before I really take them seriously, and sometimes I feel hurt, and it's normal. No, some at first you feel very hurt, no, but if you look at the bigger picture, that person is trying to look out for you. If you're going to assess, of course, the words that this person is trying to say to you, is trying to look out for you, trying to help you improve. And also, that's why right now, no, every time that I take constructive criticisms, like, I say thank you, and then it's not like a big of a deal anymore. So that's the first thing, no, listening. So either you want to understand what they're feeling, of if they have concerns, you want, at least it would be easier for you to address if you listen intently, or you would just like to receive like a constructive criticism or a feedback from this person. Okay, so the more you can understand if you listen. Then the next one is empathy. Okay, so empathy means that you set aside your personal viewpoints temporarily, of course, no, not permanently, but temporarily, and you value her perspective. You empathize with this person, you listen, you understand, you feel this person, you understand their intentions, their perspective. So temporarily you set aside. Now, sometimes you do this one with people who are struggling with mental issues, and I'm not an expert about mental health, but the best thing that we can do to someone that who is, has struggles and would like to share it with you, is that we empathize, we listen. You don't share like, for me, maumang good ni siya, mao ni, you set that aside first. Okay, what matters is them as of the moment. Okay. The next one is healing. So when we talk about healing, it's about the characteristic to relate to the emotional health and wholeness of people, and involve supporting them physically and even mentally. So it goes well, it complements with the empathy and the listening. No? And we talk about healing class, you have to make sure that your people have the right support, the right resources, the right knowledge to do their jobs effectively, and that they have a very healthy workplace. Okay, so for example, if you're doing on a project, you have to make sure that they're comfortable with their work, as well as they have the right resources. And then you have to take extra steps to make sure that they're very engaged and very happy in their role. So in each project, diba, you have different roles. Like this person will make the pub mats, this person will finalize the project proposal, this person will be in charge of the technicality. So you have different roles in your committee or in your group, no? And every time that you organize different Arsc activities, you have this kind of like committee, diba? So you have to make sure that dili siya super stress out sa iyahang nga task or responsibility. You have to make sure that each of them have the right resources. Each of them have the knowledge to do the tasks that they are given, and they have the right support. So that's what I did in trait map, no, with the students that I am handling. Like, I really make sure that they have enough resources. Like, I provide them with templates if they are struggling, or for example, if they need support, if you need someone, like for example, one would complain that, or one would bring up a concern that he is struggling with this when he needs a partner, then you have to provide him with a partner. Just making sure that all of them are engaged, no, because the more they are so stressed out with their work, that they find that, they have limited resources, or for example, they've seen that, you know there's a lack of support, that there is no one that they can ask to in case that they have like concerns. They would feel very like demotivated, no, and they would feel not engaged in the task already, because for them, they're scared to move forward because they don't know what to do, no. And it's important that you support them mentally, physically, no. So that's all about healing. Next one is self-awareness. So self-awareness is the ability to look at yourself and think deeply about your emotions. So you're emotionally aware, no? You're emotionally aware of your behavior, and you consider how these emotions affect people around you. Okay, so how can you be self-aware? First, you have to really understand what are your strengths and what are your weaknesses. And also, if you feel that you lack the insight, you try to ask people for feedback. Then dili mag-ask tag feedback and then you get insulted, ha, if they would really tell you the truth. So sometimes the truth can be ugly. Telling the truth can be very difficult, but it's important that we ask them from time to time, like, how was I? Or, you know, was I okay? Or what do you think are, my negative attitudes, and what do you think is the best way that how I can correct them? So the more you're fully aware of your strengths and weaknesses, you can take action on how to improve, especially the weaknesses part. And also, the more you are fully emotionally aware of your behavior and how it affects others, the more you can be able to control them. And it's difficult, even if kami gani, 'di ba? I've attended several webinars on emotional awareness, handling emotions, because sometimes, you know, these emotions can get the best of us. Sometimes they overwhelm us, especially if it's work related or family related kind of stress, no. And sometimes, no, we can be so irritable, and sometimes, no, unknowingly we can say like a very hurtful word to someone that we don't mean, just because of our emotion at that situation or at that moment. So, you know, being able to control your emotions means you're aware of it. Like, you're aware that if I say this or if I do this, it would hurt other people, or it would insult them, or um this would bring out like a negative outcome if I do this or say this. So being aware of your emotions is an important key to servant leadership. So it takes time, it takes a whole deal of mastery on how to restrain on your emotions and how to really control them. And I really applaud people who can really control their emotions so well. Others, up to the point that they don't get bothered in just a very small thing, and they can even keep a very calm demeanor, and that's really not just a skill, but no, something that I can really like applaud to, because like it takes discipline. So hopefully some of you are self-aware people and can able to control, or emotionally aware, can able to control your emotions very well. I, for one, have to admit, have to be very honest with you. I also struggle in this aspect, but that doesn't mean that I'm not open to change. And that does not mean that I'm not open to also changing myself and my perspective, and also trying to discipline myself to become more emotionally aware. So the next one is persuasion. Now, this is also a very, I don't mean to say like difficult, but it takes also time to master if done right. No, because um, emotional awareness takes a lot of time and discipline. Persuasion also takes a lot of time to master. And when we talk about persuasion, no, servant leaders use persuasion rather than authority or instilling fear, you know, to encourage people, okay, to take action. So servant leaders use persuasion, okay. And we talk about persuasion, it's not about, telling um a lie, or for example manipulating other people so that you can persuade them. Persuasion in servant leadership is not like that. No, when we talk about servant leadership, it's about being able to empower, encourage people without damaging relationships or taking advantage of other people. You can be a very good person, you can be a person with very good um persuasion skills. I don't know if it's called a skill, or you can be very persuasive as a person without using those negative things. And how can you do that? No, one way of um persuasive, one way of being a persuasive person, especially being a servant leader, is you also um lead by example, no, or lead with example na siya. So that means that when they see you, taking action or doing the task, or for example, if they see you, being active in some of the activities, or you know, have showing commitment, showing dedication to the work, it too can be persuaded. Okay, they would see, no, if she can do it, or if this person can do it, I can do this as well. So that's one way that you can encourage other people. You lead by example. So they're most likely going to listen to you if you want to persuade them or inspire them, if they see you that you're also working, or you're also taking action. You lead by example. Another example as well is if they show that you have sincerity, if you have the confidence to be a leader. So it's easy for me to persuade some of my officers to, pursue another engagement or project, because I often tell them that, "Oh, don't worry, I will be with you in every step of the way." And I actually do it. No, it's not just empty promises that I persuade them to hop on the project and just leave them as soon as they start with the project. No, I keep my word. I stay true to my word. And then when I said nga, you don't have to worry. If we hop on this project, I will be with you in every step of the way. I make sure that all of us will have a great time doing the project, and you won't be struggling, because we will be um you'll be supporting each other, you'll have enough resources. So at that time they will be persuaded not to join me, because they see that I'm also in it as well. Okay. And then I'm confident in what I say, and I really um keep my word. Okay. You can even inspire them, no, especially if you're a very charismatic kind of person. You inspire them with words and action. It has to be paired, not just words. Like, you inspire them with words, and then you um just leave them in the middle of the project. No, you inspire them with words, and then you also inspire them with your action, and that's easily how you can persuade other people. Okay, the next one is conceptualization. So it's the characteristic or your ability to dream great dreams. So you try to look at day-to-day realities to the bigger picture. You're someone that is willing to innovate. You're someone who is willing to, go out there, go out of the comfort zone, and dream big things, and try to really achieve them. So as a servant leader, you're not just limited to where you are. Like, I think it's fine by me. No, you always try to strive for something greater. Okay, next is foresight. So foresight is where you can predict what is likely to happen in the future by learning from the past. So in our experiences, we learn from them, and do not ever like forget all of those experiences just because you had like a bad experience in the past, you can't just forget them. You sometimes know the past can serve as a lesson, and it can really help you in the future so that you will not be making the same mistakes anymore. And as servant leaders, you have to have like a gift of foresight. Like, this is what happened last time, and it was a bit chaotic. So how do we improve in the next activity or in the next project? Okay. So it also means you identify what is likely happening now, and you understand what will be the consequences in the future. So foresight does not only mean that you look back at the past experiences and how you can improve in the future, but also understanding what is happening now and what you're doing now. You're also what they call this, you're also aware of what will be the consequences in the future because of the actions and decisions you're making in the present. So that's foresight. Okay. So when you plan out things, when you make decisions, when you plan for long term, okay, you need to think about the future. So if we're going to do this, what happens next? Okay. If we're going to decide upon this, what will happen in the next few years or in the next few months? Okay. So, and also when it comes to foresight, learn to trust your intuition. Okay. It also helps. No, there are a lot of times where my instinct really helped me a lot. No, and it tells you when something is wrong, and you have to learn to trust it. Okay. So next is stewardship. So stewardship is taking responsibility, it's accountability for the actions and performance of your team. So it's also being accountable for the role team members play in your organization. So whether you're a formal leader or not, talk about formal leadership is when you're really appointed to this position, or you're a reluctant leader. There was no one else to guide or lead the team in the project, so you had to step up. So whether you're a formal leader or not, you have the responsibility in all the things that is happening in your organization or in the people around you. So it's high time to think about the values as well as your organization, and think about the things that you won't stand for. So stewardship is about leading by example, and that is by demonstrating, by um, showing, manifesting the values and behaviors you want to see in your group. If you want them to have commitment, you have to also have commitment. Like if you want them to come on time, you also have to come on time. Like you have to lead by example, just similar to what I've mentioned earlier. And stewardship also means that you've integrated a certain value in your group, and you've also manifested or have shown that in yourself as well, and you've used that to inspire other people to follow you. Stewardship is like that. And stewardship is also having the confidence to stand up to other people and act in a way that stand up against people or values that doesn't match or reflect the kind of values that you present in your group. So that's stewardship, doing the right thing, taking responsibility and accountability, and then standing up to what you feel is wrong and doesn't align with the values that you uphold. So next is commitment to the growth of people. As servant leaders, we are also committed to the personal development of our members or of the people around us. So if you see someone in your group that is good in editing or is good in arts, you try to hone that potential. You assign a certain task that will really help their artistic or creative side. Okay. If you see someone who is good in dancing or singing, then you encourage them to show their talent. No, and that's how we commit into helping people around us grow. That you're not just helping yourself grow, but you're also helping other people. So you're happy that they got to be out there showcasing their talents and their skills. And that's what true leadership means. That's what servant leadership means. Now, you're not only focused about yourself, but you're also focused into the welfare and growth of other people. And then the last one is building community. So you can do this by providing a lot of opportunities for people to interact with one another across your team or across the community. So you have like activities wherein they can socialize with each other. You encourage a spirit of barkadahan, and then you encourage them to form like a bond with each other. Okay. And not only that, building a community means you have to encourage people to also take responsibility for their work. So it's not only you as a leader who takes responsibility and accountability, but also you need to remind the people around you that they have to take responsibility for their work. You have to remind them how small or big their task is, they can still contribute to the success and the overall objectives of your group. So you empower them, you know, you help each other, you socialize with each other, you build a community where you help and share each other's skills. And also, you remind them that all of us is our own responsibility, no matter how great or how small each of our responsibility is. Regardless of that, all of us has equal um, contribution to the success of this group. Okay, so you don't have to invalidate other people just because they have smaller tasks, or for you it feels like their task is insignificant, and you know you won't have to deal with them. No, no matter how small or great, like what I've said, no matter small or big their task is, um, all of them can contribute something to the success of the organization of your project. One example of that was from the song Through Heaven's Eyes in the movie Prince of Egypt, wherein Jethro um, sang the first two verse of the song, I think, or more than that. No, he sang a part of a line wherein I tried a single thread in a tapestry, though its color brightly shines, can never see its purpose in the pattern of the grand design. And the stone that sits on the very top of the mountain's mighty face, does it think it's more important than the stones that form the base? So when I heard that, no, actually it was very heartwarming, because Jethro here is telling Moses that in the movie that you don't have to see yourself as a very insignificant person just because you, like, for them, no, like, insignificant ko because ako rin bitaw sa, I can't really do something so remarkable like other people. Well, in fact, um, you take for example the single thread in a tapestry that contributes to the great and beautiful grand design, the great pattern, or the stones, the tiny stones that form the base, contributes to the great and majestic mountain. So no matter how small you are, no matter how you think your work may be insignificant to others, but as long as you are contributing a lot to the community, that is something. And sometimes I tell my students na, okay, so the other person has having struggles with internet connection, but that doesn't mean that you don't include them in the project, or you don't include them in the meeting. Like sometimes they would tell me, Mom, ang magmitra is ang kon na siguro may president and vice and secretary and the important members in the group, because the projects that we have or the task in our project is far more important and entails a lot of time. And I told them, why not include everyone? We do not know, maybe the PRO or the other representatives have something to say as well or suggest in the project. Even if you are assigned with this task, maybe they have something to suggest as well to improve the output of your task. I always tell them that, because you have to include everyone. Everyone has an equal responsibility. Everyone can contribute something, okay, big or small. Okay, so that's it. No, hopefully you were able to learn a bit from my sharing about servant leadership. So before we will proceed with our very last topic, I want you to remember that servant leadership is about focusing on other people's needs, not their feelings. So although we try to be empathetic, we um, try to be sensitive to listen to the needs or the feelings of our members, we have to make sure that your decision is grounded on what your group needs, not because of their feelings. If you are afraid to make unpopular decisions, or to not negative feedback, no, but to give constructive criticism or give some kind of like, let's say, a feedback that is not, pleasant to them, as long as that is needed, as long as that is important in that time. If it's needed, then you have to do it. Sometimes doing the right thing is very difficult. Sometimes saying the truth can be ugly, can be hurtful. But if it's what the group needs, if it's what your community needs in order to progress, in order to improve yourselves, in order to have a better like output of your project, then do that. No, sometimes choosing what is right can be difficult. So servant leadership does not only focus on, it's not based on the feelings of other people. Like when I make decisions, you're scared because they would feel, indifferent around you, or you're scared that, this may hurt or offend them a little. But if you feel that you're in the right path, if you feel that what you want to say or want to do, or your decision is right, then do it. No. So sometimes making unpopular decisions is not the pleasure of everyone. Sometimes there will be others that will complain, but if it means that they would learn something from it, if that's the time that they will grow, then you do it. Okay. So you're for the welfare of everyone, what they really need, for the good of all, not because you're concerned about the comments of other people. So back then I was like that. I kept on focusing myself on what the people will say around me. I was really invested on pleasing other people. And you can never please everyone. As a servant leader, you're not a people pleaser. A servant leader is not self-serving, because we talk about self-serving, it means that you're afraid to do the right thing because you're afraid that they would say bad things about you. That's self-serving. You just want people to say good things about you because it makes you feel good. That's not servant leadership. Servant leadership is selfless. It's not self-serving, meaning regardless of what they will say about you, as long as you stand up for what is right, you believe that what you decide is the right path, the right thing to do, because it's what everybody needs, then you do it. That's what servant leadership is. Okay? So only the right and important people will really understand you. No, the right people with an open mind will understand your decision because you put the welfare of other people than your own. Okay? You're willing to risk even, not reputation entirely, but you're willing to risk your emotions, because in the end, when people are going to say something about you, you're also going to feel bad. Sometimes you'll get hurt, but you're willing to risk, set aside that, because you want to do something that is right. You want to really focus on what is good for all. Okay? So that's what leadership is. That's what leadership is. Pakatawar tama because it's very kind. I have a bad sense of humor, so sometimes I just do this during the class. Always be as enthusiastic as ever. Okay, so the last part is gifted to give of faith. So going back to the theme of the 500 years of Christianity, we have been given this faith from God, and it is our duty to share them. It is our mission to share this gift of faith to others. And how can we share that? Through evangelization. So the theme is a reminder of how we Filipinos truly embrace the Catholic faith as we have been gifted with. We have graciously and gratefully accepted this gift of faith. We have nurtured it, and now we are tasked. It is our mission to share it with others. That is why in every Arsc Congress, dili dyan na mawahala, It's always been our tradition as Heresians to have evangelization activities, battle cries. No, it's always an essential preparation in every Heresy Congress. Like before we leave, or before we leave to for Palawan, or for example sa Parañaque, no, we always in our checklist there always has to be a battle cry. It's part of our culture now as Heresians because it is our mission. Okay, we have received the good news, we have to spread the good news to others. Okay, um, we have to share it to the community. It is our mission to make the faith known to all. Jesus himself commanded us to evangelize. So who are we to decline that calling? And kudos to Consolatrix College. Since the time of the previous Air Sisters, especially Sister Luz, was so active when it comes to evangelization. Um, we always make it sure that you know we have this catechism. We facilitate catechism in each, like from kinder to college, and as well as not just within the institution, but also even outside of the school. No, so kudos to Consolatrix College. You've been so active with evangelization activities, and that is what a true ARCN is. No, it's one of the responsibilities that we must do. So I do hope that it continues, it remains. No, even after that you have graduated from Consolatrix College, you will never stop in sharing the good news to others, no, in sharing that gift of faith to others. So that ends my talk for today. Here are just some of the references that I got for my presentation. Some of them are from articles about the history of the Catholic Church, and others are also from the official website of the 500 Years of Christianity. I did mention that one before, so if you weren't able to hear it, no, so you can just visit that for um, a comprehensive reading of the entire history. No, so what I have shared earlier was just a very short, like portion of that history that you can just like have a glimpse of it. So before I will end my talk for today, which is like to um, say these final words in my talk, wherein the 500 years of Christianity is not only a reminder of how Catholic Church in the Philippines struggled and as well as persevered, but also um, the 500 years of Christianity is reminding us well to look forward to the future of giving, that no matter how many years have passed, we can still continue sharing our time, our presence, and even the gift of faith to others. So I do hope as Aircians you'll also continue this. So thank you so much everyone for having me. Mom Lizelle De La Cruz, Sister Josie, the Air community in Consolatrix College, faculty and staff, to all the consolatricians, Aircians who are with us today. Thank you so much.